Don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest stories. I wasn't expecting much from the weekend. It was one of those quiet, unremarkable Saturdays where I had planned to enjoy a cup of coffee, maybe read a book, and let the hours drift by. But life has a funny way of surprising us when we least expect it. It started with a call from my friend Lissa. "Hey, do you remember my cousin Ryan?" she asked, her voice carrying that tone she had whenever she was about to ask a favor. Ryan. The name rang a bell, but it took me a second to place him. Your uncle's kid, right? The one who used to run around with chocolate all over his face when he was little. Lisa laughed. Yeah, well, he's not so little anymore. He just turned 18 and is heading off to college soon. Wow. Time flies, I said, still trying to picture him as anything other than the gap-toothed boy I vaguely remembered. Yeah, it really does. Listen, he's in town for the weekend, and I was supposed to help him out with something, but work just threw a last-minute project at me. Any chance you could step in? I hesitated, not because I didn't want to help, but because I wasn't sure what she was about to ask. Depends on what it is. Lisa chuckled. Nothing crazy. He just needs someone to help him out with his car. He's been saving up for a long time and finally bought this old thing, but it needs some work. I told him you know a thing or two about cars, and he'd really appreciate the help. I glanced outside. It was a beautiful day, warm but not too hot, the kind that made you want to be out in the open. Besides, I had always enjoyed working with my hands. All right, I said. Where is he? Lisa gave me an address, and an hour later, I found myself pulling into the driveway of a small rental house on the outskirts of town. The place was modest but well kept, the kind of place that young people stayed in when they were figuring life out. And there in the driveway stood Ryan. I had expected to see some version of the kid I remembered, but the person who turned around when I got out of my car was far from a child. He was tall, with an athletic build and an easy confidence about him. His sandy blonde hair was tousled, and there was a streak of grease on his forearm. Lissa said you were coming, he said with a grin, wiping his hands on a rag. Thanks for this. I know it's kind of random. No problem, I said, returning the smile. Let's see what we're working with. He led me over to the car, a 1998 Mustang in desperate need of attention. The paint was faded, the engine stuttered when he started it, and the brakes squealed in protest. What made you pick this one? I asked, leaning over the hood. Ryan shrugged. Always wanted one. It's not much now, but I figured I could fix it up. There was something endearing about his determination. He reminded me of my own son at that age, full of plans and energy, eager to take on the world. I rolled up my sleeves. Well, let's see what we can do. For the next few hours, we worked side by side. I showed him how to check the oil, clean out the filters, and tighten up some of the loose connections. He was eager to learn, asking questions, listening intently. At one point, he stopped and looked at me with a curious expression. You really know your stuff. Where'd you learn all this? My dad, I said with a fond smile. He was a mechanic. Taught me everything he knew. Ryan nodded. That's cool. I wish I had someone like that growing up. My dad wasn't really around. There was a quiet moment between us, the kind where unspoken understanding passes between two people. We worked until the sun began to set, the sky turning shades of orange and pink. Ryan stood back, hands on his hips, looking at the car with a proud expression. I think she's got some life left in her, he said. She does, I agreed. And with a little more work, she'll run like a dream." Ryan turned to me, his blue eyes filled with something thoughtful. "Thanks for today. I mean it. I know you probably had better things to do, but this meant a lot." I brushed a stray lock of hair from my face, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the setting sun. "Any time," I said softly. And at that moment, I had the strangest feeling, like this day wasn't just about fixing an old car. It was something else, something unspoken but real. I wasn't sure what would happen next, but I knew this wasn't the end of the story. The drive home that evening felt different. My hands were still a little greasy, and the faint smell of motor oil lingered on my clothes, but that wasn't what occupied my mind. It was Ryan, his easy laughter, the way he paid attention when I spoke, the gratitude in his voice when he thanked me. I had agreed to help him with his car, nothing more. And yet something about today lingered in a way I hadn't expected. When I got home, I poured myself a glass of wine and settled onto the couch. The house was quiet, as it often was these days. My son had moved out years ago, and though I was used to the solitude, it felt particularly noticeable tonight. I picked up my phone, debating whether to text Lisa and tell her how the day went, but before I could decide, a message popped up on my screen. "Ryan, hey, just wanted to say thanks again. Today was awesome." A small smile tugged at my lips. I tapped out a quick reply. "Me, glad you had fun. The Mustang's got potential. Keep at it, and you'll have it running smooth in no time." His response came almost immediately. "Ryan, yeah, but I think it ran better today, 'cause I had a good teacher." I stared at the message a moment longer than I should have. The winking emoji, the playful tone. I shook my head, telling myself not to read into things. Ryan was just being friendly. He was 18, just a kid. And I was a woman who had no business lingering on a text from him. I placed my phone down and took another sip of wine, trying to dismiss the strange flutter in my chest. The next day, I had just finished my morning coffee when my phone buzzed again. "Ryan, hey, you busy today?" I hesitated. The logical part of me knew I should keep my distance. But another part, one I wasn't ready to name, found itself typing before I could overthink it. "Me, not really. Why?" "Ryan, I thought maybe we could work on the car some more. If you're up for it?" I exhaled, staring at the screen. The smart thing would be to make an excuse, to say I had plans. But the truth was, I didn't. And there was something about the way Ryan had looked at me yesterday, something in the way he listened when I spoke, that made me curious. Before I could talk myself out of it, I replied, "Me? Sure. I'll be over in an hour." An afternoon of fixing, and something else. When I arrived, Ryan was already outside, leaning against the Mustang with that same easy confidence. His t-shirt clung to him in the afternoon heat, and his sandy blonde hair was slightly damp with sweat. "You actually came," he said, grinning as I stepped out of my car. "You sound surprised." He shrugged. "I don't know. I just wasn't sure if you would." I lifted an eyebrow. "Why wouldn't I?" Ryan hesitated, his fingers tapping against the hood of the car. "Guess I just figured you might have better things to do." I laughed. "Ryan, I'm a 48-year-old woman who spent last night watching reruns and drinking wine. Trust me, this is way more interesting." He chuckled at that, but there was something else in his expression. Something unreadable. We got to work, falling into an easy rhythm. This time, it wasn't just about the car, it was about conversation. "So, college," I said as I handed him a wrench. "Are you excited?" Ryan hesitated, tightening a bolt before answering. Yeah, I guess. It's a big change, you know. I too. I leaned against the car, watching him. But change isn't always bad. He nodded, but his gaze flickered toward me, thoughtful. What about you? You ever think about making a change? I frowned. Like what? Ryan shrugged. I don't know. Something for yourself. Something different. The question caught me off guard. I hadn't really thought about it before. My life had settled into a predictable routine. Work, home, occasional nights out with friends. But when was the last time I'd done something just for me? I didn't have an answer. Ryan must have sensed my hesitation because he smiled. Maybe it's time you did. I scoffed, shaking my head. I'll add it to my to-do list. He laughed, but the moment didn't break as easily as I thought it would. There was something lingering in the air, something unspoken between us. The sun was setting by the time we wrapped up, both of us sweaty and exhausted. Ryan wiped his hands on a rag before looking at me. Hey, he said suddenly, you want to grab something to eat? I blinked. Like dinner? Yeah. He shrugged, casual. We worked hard, and it's not a date or anything. Just two people getting food. I hesitated. Every part of me knew I should say no. But instead, I found myself saying, all right, but I'm picking the place. Ryan grinned. Deal. As we climbed into our cars, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just crossed a line. A small one, maybe, but a line nonetheless. And yet, as I followed Ryan's Mustang down the road, I couldn't bring myself to regret it. Dinner with Ryan was supposed to be casual, just food, just two people who had spent the afternoon fixing a car. That's what I kept telling myself as I followed his Mustang to a little roadside diner on the outskirts of town. It wasn't a fancy place, red vinyl booths, a jukebox in the corner, and the kind of laminated menus that hadn't changed in decades. But that was the charm of it. I'd been here before, but tonight it felt different. Ryan held the door open for me, flashing a boyish grin. Ladies first. I smirked. Chivalry isn't dead, after all. We slid into a booth by the window, and a waitress who looked like she'd been working here since the place opened handed us menus. Best burger in town, Ryan said, tapping the menu. I raised an eyebrow. That's so. Swear on my life. He grinned. If I'm wrong, you can banish me from your garage forever. Chuckled. All right, you've got yourself a deal. Something more than small talk. The conversation started off easy. Cars, college, my job, his plans. But somewhere between bites of surprisingly good burgers and sips of vanilla milkshakes, it shifted. You ever think about what you'd do if things were different? Ryan asked, his tone softer now. I tilted my head. Different how? He shrugged, stirring his milkshake with his straw. Like, if life didn't turn out the way it did. If you had a second chance at something. I hesitated. It wasn't a question I thought about often, because what was the point? Life had already happened. I'd been married, had a son, built a career. And now, I was here, nearly 50, watching the years slip by faster than I could hold on to them. But Ryan was looking at me, waiting for an answer. I don't know, I admitted. Maybe I would have traveled more. Maybe I would have taken more risks. Ryan nodded, watching me carefully. Maybe it's not too late. I scoffed. That's the kind of thing you say when you're 18 and the world feels wide open. And when you're 48? I didn't have an answer to that. The silence between us stretched for a moment, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was charged, like something unsaid was hanging in the air between us. I glanced at him, really glanced at him, and suddenly I wasn't just seeing my friend's young cousin. I was seeing a man. A tension we couldn't ignore. We paid the bill, but neither of us made a move to leave right away. Instead, we sat there, lingering in the moment, like we both knew that stepping outside would shift something between us. Finally, Ryan broke the silence. "Wanna go for a drive?" I should have said no. I should have reminded him I had work in the morning, that this had already gone far enough. But instead, I found myself saying, "Yeah, let's go." A ride neither of us expected. The Mustang's engine rumbled as we drove out past the city limits. The road stretched ahead, dark and endless, the streetlights fading as we reached the outskirts of town. I let my hand rest on the window's edge, the warm night air brushing against my skin. Ryan glanced over at me. "You okay?" I nodded, just thinking. About? I hesitated, then sighed. About how I probably shouldn't be here. Ryan was quiet for a moment, his grip tightening on the wheel. "Do you want to be?" That was the real question, wasn't it? I turned to look at him. His jaw was set, his expression unreadable. But there was something else there, too. Something unspoken. "I don't know," I admitted. He pulled the car over onto a quiet stretch of road, killing the engine. The silence between us felt heavy, expectant. "You don't have to know," he said finally. "You just have to be honest." I swallowed hard, my heart beating faster than it should have. This was dangerous. This was uncharted territory. And yet, for the first time in a long time, I wasn't sure I wanted to turn back. The car was silent except for the soft ticking of the cooling engine. Outside, the night stretched endlessly, the distant hum of cicadas filling the space between us. Ryan sat beside me, his hands resting on the wheel, waiting. Not pressuring, not assuming, just waiting. And I had no idea what to say. The moment of truth. I exhaled slowly, running my fingers over the stitching of the seat.